Did you know Eamon had a daughter?
What do you want?
I'm putting together a team. And I want you on it.
All right, our next question comes to us from Mia. Mia asks, who do you think will be in the Young Avengers / Champions if that ever actually comes out? And do you think we could be introduced to more people like Iron Lad or Hulkling to round out the team? Or do we have too many teenagers running around in the MCU right now to introduce more? All right, thank you so much for that question. So, the Young Avengers, or Champions, or whatever the hell they end up calling this team up of young heroes in the MCU, it is still happening, I think. And it really could be our best chance, I think, at maybe getting another crack at Kang in the MCU, and maybe in that, post Secret Wars era. So the Multiverse Saga, it has introduced us to a lot of new young characters, such as Kamala Khan, America Chavez, Billy and Tommy Maximoff, Hulk's son Scar. I don't know if he's really cool. Got a terrible haircut. We've got Kate Bishop Hawkeye, Riri Williams Ironheart. There's Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie, who is now, is she Stinger? Did they give her a name? Or is she Stature? Something. Whatever her name is. She shrinks. And, there's all of these new characters being played by this young cast, and they've been great. I've already picked on Scar, so I won't pick on him too much. We don't really know much about him, except he has a terrible barber. So most of this new cast has been introduced on the small screen, and that's why I think the best place for this story to be told is on the small screen, on Disney+, episodically. And, it's rare that I say that, because most of the time I'm going to tell you it needs to be a movie. But I think a story like this and the coming of age aspect and the time we could spend with each of these characters, watching them grow and learn how to be heroes and dealing with their own personal teenage shit, young adult shit, it can make for a great show. Plus, like I said, they've all, for the most part, been set up on the small screen. Now, in the comics, Vision is like the dad of the group, and we have Vision Quest coming out soon, and I think that it is likely that that show, which is like the third, in a loose trilogy with WandaVision and Agatha all along, I think that Vision Quest is going to be setting up this separate MCU of sorts that takes place only on the small screen. Or I shouldn't say only, but primarily on the small screen, and it has its own interconnectivity and story that doesn't do a ton of crossover with the films post Secret Wars. In fact, it's been reported that Vision Quest is likely going to be one of the last Disney Plus Marvel shows that stars a movie character. But then again, there have been the reports that Jeremy Renner is doing Hawkeye too, so I don't know. They don't know what they're doing. But anyway, we saw in the post-credit scene for, I believe it was some... Yeah, it was the Marvels. For the Marvels, where Miss Marvel is recruiting Kate Bishop Hawkeye for a team that she's putting together. And that's really all we've gotten. I know, shocker. An abandoned post-credit scene setting up something we may not see ever, or at least for another 6 years since the moment that they show us the post-credit scene. As far as what I would like to see in a Champions or Young Avengers show, I think I want all of the aforementioned cast, Kamala, Kate, Cassie, Riri, Billy, Tommy, Scar, and instead of bringing in, I think an Iron Lad character, I do think that Riri could fill that role of Iron Lad. And I think with her being a super genius who was inspired by Tony Stark and Iron Man, and remember, in the MCU, Tony Stark is the one who discovered time travel. So I think it'd be neat if we find out that, like in the comics, where Iron Lad was a young kid variant of Kang, it's more complicated than that, but that's the short of it. He's Kang. It might be cool if they did that with Riri Williams. I mean, we've seen that variants can be different sexes, so maybe that's something they'll do. Maybe she becomes Kang. Now, I know a certain side of the internet's heads just exploded upon me saying that, but I think it could maybe be neat. I don't know. Maybe it's a dumb idea. I don't know. Sue me. I do know that I think Mephisto will have a big role to play in all of this. He was set up already in WandaVision and Agatha all along, and then big time in Ironheart when we actually see him in the flesh. And I think that Mephisto will have a lot to do with the story of Vision Quest as well, which is exploring the artificial intelligence and soul, how those connect and how they're different and what it means to, exist. I think Mephisto is going to be right in there, because we saw him pretty much get into that with that artificial intelligence of Riri's friend in Ironheart, and then he brings her back from the dead. And we've still got a lot to explore there about, what it means to be conscious. I think that Mephisto is playing a hand in all of those different shows, and we could still have a culmination on the way. We could see Mephisto serve as a villain as not only to like the Champions or the Young Avengers, but also to characters like Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night, which they are doing a sequel to. Maybe Daredevil could even come in, and we see him involved in this big like Disney Plus crossover event series where they bring together all of their shows. And I do think that while the MCU after Secret Wars and they do like that reset, I do think that they need to make the shows feel way more connected to the other shows and the movies feel way more connected to the other movies rather than having the shows and movies feel super connected, and don't have too much crossover between shows and movies, because you never want like a situation where in order to go see a movie, you need to have seen this season of television. It's just not smart to have, a TV show be required viewing in order to go see a movie. Mandalorian and Grogu. So I hope Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige might consider hiring someone to shepherd essentially like a second MCU post Secret Wars that is still 100% the same universe as the movies, but there's like a divide where the movies do their thing and do their crossovers and the shows do their thing and their crossovers. And then, you can throw in like fun nods for the super fans that watch it all, but if you're not somebody who watches every single thing they put out, you don't need to feel like you're lost. I think that's something the multiverse saga kind of struggled with, and hopefully the mutant saga or whatever this next saga after Secret Wars is called, hopefully they don't run into that. But yeah, I hope this show is still happening. I hope it's a show, and I hope it has the same quality as WandaVision and Agatha All Along, and I hope it delivers like a fun, engaging story. All right, thank you so much for that question, Mia. Hey everybody, Colton here, and this is the mailbag style show where I take your questions about Marvel, Star Wars, DC, movies and streaming in general, whatever you want to ask. Send it in to the email address askcoltonnow@gmail.com, link in the description below. And hey, maybe you'll see your question featured right here on the show. And guys, I get a lot of questions sent to the mailbag, and I wish I could answer every single one of them, but sometimes I just can't get to them all. But if you are a channel member, that will guarantee that you get one of your questions answered for each episode of the show. So if you want to support the channel in that way, it is very much appreciated, makes it possible for us to keep doing the show, and it puts your question at the top of the list to be answered right here on the channel. Also, a reminder that the show is now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the podcasting places where you get your podcasts. So please, if you got a sec, give the show a download. It really helps us out a lot.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.